At the end of the day, I just want to let you guys know that it's totally okay to be on your own journey and to find the things that interest you. I think the moment that you find what interests you, you can find what you're passionate about, and it just creates an aura around you that is authentic. And I personally, I value authenticity. I love supporting people who are just, courageous enough to be themselves and just have their own life, and they're just very full and abundant and positive. I love it. And the opposite, well, not the opposite, but the second point that I want you guys to take from this podcast episode is just to understand that when it comes to your life and when it comes to certain events that happen in your life, don't be so hard on yourself. I can assure you, when it comes to social media, understand that social media and Instagram, specifically, a lot of these things are just business marketing tools. People are not here to be your shrink. People are not here to share certain experiences. Though some people do. Some people do share certain experiences, but it's not like a book. You know what I mean? So you have to understand that success is not something that's linear, so even if you have a bad day or you have something happens to you, understand that this is not your demise. Like, things happen for a reason. And I was able to come back and make this podcast episode. So it worked out perfectly for me. So I hope that it reaches someone today. And I hope that you feel encouraged, and you feel inspired, and you just know that, first of all, everything happens for a reason. And, I want to say this too, because I think that sometimes, because we are in a state of continuous control, we don't let God move in our lives. And I can assure you that when it comes to anything good in life, like, it's going to require a risk. So sometimes we're on jobs, sometimes we're in relationships, whatever position we may be in our lives. We feel like we have to stay there because this is what we can maintain. This is what we can do. But it's like we never let it go. We never take the next step. We never, sit in a space where we're like, I'm going to pray on this. I'm going to be courageous and I'm going to take the leap of faith. And then you just never know. Now, I can assure you for myself, I've taken many risks. I love change. I'm really passionate about what it is that I do. It's only so much I can tolerate in regards to certain positions. I just don't think that God has called me to have to experience certain things to such a degree. I think about the life that my ancestors lived and the price that was paid, So me personally, there's only so much I'm going to deal with in regards to certain situations. But I will say that, anytime I've ever moved in life, God has always caught me. There was one time where it was like, I felt like it definitely didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. But I'm telling you, what was produced from that was Jalen Leslie. Girl, she was cooking up, okay? She was cooking up. And honestly, it made me such a better human being. It made me such a better person. It strengthened my spirit. It brought forth my own spirit. That really brought me closer to myself. That brought me closer to God. And I have no regrets. I think that is actually how God intended for that particular season in my life to go. So, for me, at the end of the day, it's just recognizing like who my provider is and who has a track record of providing for me 1,000 times over, So I think that too often we're constantly in a state of fear, but it's like you can't walk with fear and faith at the same time. It's just not going to work. They're going to keep stepping over one another. Fear is going to take a step, faith's going to take a step, and then you're just going to constantly be in a state of double-mindedness. You're constantly going to be in a paradox state where you're like paralleling, and it's just like, listen, girl, you got to make a decision, which one is it going to be? And so I just have to say that too, like, understand that God is your source. You can't sit here and think, because listen, when you give that much power to man, then it becomes a control thing, right? Then it becomes, I'm going to strip you of your dignity. Then it becomes a mental state, right? And I'm going to talk about in terms of like a job, just because when it comes to employment, you have to understand there are systems in place, right? And we're aware of that. And I think that's why more people are leaning towards entrepreneurship. And even myself, I'm starting something this year, and I'm really like, y'all know, like initially I was like, no, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I just don't really have, I don't want to do it. And so it's kind of crazy to be in this space now. I feel like this is why I just never say never, because it's like, why does it seem like the moment that you say never, you find yourself in that space? So anyway, that's where I am now. But I realize the freedom in that, right? So it's important to just kind of understand who's your provider, because like I said, when you give power to man, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, you are surrendering everything to a fallible human being, right? Who wakes up happy one day and sad the next, who's yelling 1 minute and smiling the next. Like, human beings are just constantly changing. So, you're putting you're putting so much faith, and you're surrendering so much power to something or someone that is literally inconsistent and unstable in every way. Like you can never build a foundation on that. That can never be your foundation, because you're gonna come up short every single time. And I even think about when it comes to jobs, there are a lot of amazing leaders, a lot of people God wants to use in terms of employment. I think that's why we have such a I think that's why we're now in a state of the Great Resignation. I think that God wants to use a lot of believers. There are some amazing people that I've met along my journey who are stuck in positions that are not valuing them, that are not paying them what they're really worth. They are just, being treated not with the same level of respect that they deserve. And it's a sad thing to see, because, those situations break down your psyche, right? It breaks down your confidence. If you're reaching for something and someone keeps smacking your hand and saying, but you're a child and you need this juice, right? You can hold that sippy cup, okay? You're an adult and your capabilities, and it's never you're never given the opportunity to exude those skills. And so what happens is that stuff starts to decline, and then you start to kind of follow into this state of depression and a state of anxiety, and it lowers your confidence in everything else moving forward in your life, relationships, everything, because it starts here. You're giving too much power to one thing. So let God be your source, because man is going to fail you every single time. It's going to fail you every single time, so that's why even in just with everything, let God be your source. I've learned that. That's all I can say. And I hope that everybody has an amazing day. I hope that this wasn't too far off. I had to take a little mini break in there, but we're back at it. So I'm sending light, I'm sending love, and I just, I'm hopefully this was encouraging for someone today. Definitely allow God to move in your life. Definitely be in a state of prayer. And the crazy thing about prayer is, listen, honey, God is so sudden. You can pray for something today. You go to this position, or you go to this person tomorrow, and this person gets to acting crazy, right? And this opportunity falls through, because God's letting you know, this is not what I want for you. This is not what I have for you. So it's you always want to make sure that you're in a state of continuous prayer, and you're being vigilant, and you're being mindful of what you're praying for, and where you're at, because God's getting ready to move. And it's if you're not staying prayed up, you don't know that you waking up today was God actually answering your prayers from last night, telling you don't go. Telling you don't go. But sometimes we can just have these strongholds, regards to people and to things. Now, I'm not saying be irresponsible, but I feel like even with that conversation in regards to discipline and responsibility, I don't feel like I can really sit on this podcast and have that conversation simultaneously. So we're going to leave that for another day. But yes, you guys, I just wanted to encourage you just to let God be your source. I know a lot of times there's a lot of negative connotation around Jesus and what God can do for your life, and how you feel like you may not be able to have your financial whatever. But I can assure you that outside of financials, there is so much more peace. There's so much more love. There's so much more abundance, and just overall happiness. That's what I was really praying for this year. Just happiness. I definitely feel like in my own life, I've experienced a great deal of suffering. I've been in my crushing seasons. I've definitely experienced some heartbreak last year, and I'm just okay, yeah, your girl is just ready to be happy. So just surrendering my life to Christ and just praying over everything, and God giving me new ideas and, visions and missions to carry out, and just kind of seeing how He's supplied the way, just because I said yes, when I didn't even really, I felt like, honestly, it was way over my head, quite frankly. And I just did not want to do it. I was I don't want to carry this vision out, God, because it just seems like it's over my head. Who am I? Sometimes we sit in those spaces, but just seeing how God has provided the way thus far it's just really developing this faith muscle within myself, and He's giving me courage to do it. So I'm praying for happiness. I'm definitely praying for an amazing year. I feel like it's off to a really good start. Just sitting here making this podcast and sharing some light. You guys know we've been through some healing seasons. I definitely felt like some of my content was more worldly in regards to certain political issues and things like that. And, that stuff just gets my blood boiling, honey, when I see the men online disrespecting women, or the women disrespecting. It's just, it's too much, it's too much. So I try to just, I'm happy to kind of be in a space now where God has shifted my focus, and, I can have those conversations with a lighter heart, right? Because we've gone through the process of forgiveness and releasing and just praying and just letting God do what He does best, So, okay, you guys, I hope everybody has an amazing day, and we'll talk soon.